Well, obviously we know what type of video this is gonna be. This fucking loser dipshit is thinks that, I guess he's talking to millennials or Generation Z, are the weakest generation of all times. But I actually ironically think especially Generation Z is the strongest generation of all time. To be honest with you, when you really think about it, you know, Generation Z is reinvigorating the labor movement, standing up to rich people and demanding their fair share. They're standing against bigotry of all kind and not accepting hatred. They are most likely to be progressive, most likely to simply just even vote milquetoast Democrat sometimes, and they're making society a better place to live. On the backs of us millennials, like me, I'm 28. We realize certain things about life, and I feel like Generation Z is just capitalizing on the things that we realize. Now, this dumb bastard here is gonna try to say that millennials and Gen Z, or whichever one he wants to talk to, is the weakest generation of all time. I saw this video a long time ago. Some guy named Vosh covered it, whoever the fuck that is. But as a person that works for a living, and had who has been in unions, who's had several union jobs, who's been, the person sweating, the person that had to skip showers, the person that's worked 72 hours a week, the person who also grew up in, a very fucked neighborhood. I want this motherfucker to tell me to my face, how is my generation weak?
And it goes something like this. Hard times make strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times.
I ironically saw a meme about that went from Woodrow Wilson to FDR to Ronald Reagan into like Joe Biden or some shit like that. Because and that's number one. I think that was pretty fucking funny. And then also, this is a Nazi quote used by Nazis to justify the persecution of minorities and people showing understanding and softness to people who can't make it, because a fascist society cannot survive with the ideal of empathy, the ideals of empathy and understanding. So they gotta bleed it out through dumbass overdrawn quotes like this. And plus, depending on how you look at it, as the meme I mentioned earlier, which I probably will never be able to find, but this is just a Nazi quote. I remember a few days ago I was doing a TikTok debate against some motherfucker, right? And he had said this quote really slowly. This son of a bitch has his shirt off. He's like an Andrew Tate clone. I'm like, dude, this is before he blocked me because I was getting his ass during the debate. But I told him, like, bro, this is a Nazi quote. This is not just like, oh, everybody disagrees with you as a Nazi quote. No, this is a fascist quote. Fascist, like actual Sieg Heil Nazi motherfuckers say this.
Really see this idea rolling through the ages, and that wheel of history turning is just soaked blood red by not understanding that hard times means lots of people die, tyrants rise up and rule. And so this is a really painful lesson that we have to keep learning over and over. And I wonder if we become even weaker. Let's imagine.
What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about, man?
I actually believe that. I think we are the weakest people that have ever walked on planet Earth before.
What the fuck does this mean, bro? Like, are you mad because we done had like social progress, we done had advent of technology, and that people don't socially accept some of the dumb shit that you believe? You stayed your ass in the 18th century with your dumbass colonialism and fucking racist beliefs and bigotry against gay people and women, and your fucking Protestant work ethic, while the rest of the world fucking moved on and you're just fucking sad. You can either A, go to your fucking gun range, bitch, complain and stay to your fucking self because everybody else has moved on, or B, move the fuck on from those beliefs and ask yourself why you believe them, instead of acting like the whole world is just a bad, tough place. You're the one that's bitching right now, if you really want to think about it. The world has moved on from a certain way of thinking, and we have the advent of technology, so we're weak. Why is everybody so weak? You're the fucking whiner.
and I'm gonna back that up in just a moment here. But I wonder, the weaker the
We'll
person,
see.
the worse the times to come are. Probably so. Anyway, here's kind of the way I
And
want to break this
and
up. I
this
have
like
four major points.
weak-minded fools like you make hard times for people. You're the fucking reason why people like Ronald Reagan get in office. You dipshit, manlet, fucking wanna be motherfuckers. You wanna be so fucking bad, but you're not. You motherfuckers vote in the dumbest fucking people possible. You worship people that make life actively make life worse for people, whether it's Trump, Reagan, all the way to actually fucking Hitler and like Mussolini and shit like that. People like you make fucking hard times for everybody because you're the type of motherfucker when it comes to the smallest little fucking things, whether we're talking, social views or, policies that are put in place and shit like that, you whine and complain and say every fucking thing's a handout.
Here they are. 1, we are all little kings.
Oh,
That's
boy.
gonna be fun. 2, courage has died and we do not mourn her. 3,
Don't
we
even.
are chocolate soldiers.
Oh,
And
boy.
4, it's all your fault. So I want to go
It's
through
your
these
fault.
4 pieces,
The fuck?
really just, try
It's
to
your
step
fault.
back
It's
and look
people
at
like
our
your
times as
man,
they
whatever,
are
dude.
and see where we are in that wheel of history. So we might
These are the same motherfuckers, keep in mind, talking about some times have gotten harder and it's your fault. These are the same motherfuckers who, okay, so you can have the gayest, like, person, you can create in your fucking head that can, like, cross-dress all this shit. And you'll be like, hey, man, you want to join this union at the Starbucks so we can, maybe get paid a little better, treated a little better. And then, you'll be like, I don't want to join the union. That hurts the innocent business owner. And who the fuck is, who the fuck is to say then, whose fault is it that shit has gotten harder? That libertarian, individualist, capitalist bullshit where everybody has to stand on by themselves and do everything themselves is the reason why shit is harder nowadays. It's your fault, not, millennials or Generation Z's fault.
And that when the bad times, which are just around the corner, happen, we understand where it's coming from and what it requires to get out of that business. All right, so the first point, we're all little kings. And what I mean by that, my wife and I were over in London. We saw the Tower of London where all these different kings lived. You can also imagine emperors over the time period, but they're still like going to the bathroom in pots and, low age expectancy and no real
Hey, man, get to the
medical
point.
treatment, and they're sweating it out in the summers and freezing in the winters, and they don't have ibuprofen or Benadryl or any of the modern kind of creature comforts. And so today, even our
what are you talking about? Life has gotten easier with the advancement of medicine and technology, so that's a bad thing. Hey, dude, if you want to, you can take your AR-15 out of your asshole for 30 fucking seconds. You can take your ass to the woods and live without all the provisions that you want to, instead of complaining about the fact that society has advanced.
Lowest socioeconomic class in the United States, we live in greater comfort and luxury than any of the emperors of old.
This compare and contrast shit, bro. This is like a false fucking equivalency. Just because they didn't have the advanced technology, they didn't have the organization of society that we have now, don't mean that we just ignore all the problem and all the problems and inequalities that we see today.
We're going to step into our vehicle, which can transport us, 80 miles an hour somewhere else. Journeys that would have taken months. And
life is easy for everybody because you got a car. Like, that's literally what's being said here, dude. Come on.
Might have died at is now just kind of a casual day trip where we can artificially control the environment to
what does that mean?
degrees with perfect lumbar support, as we're just being able to drive to an airport and then be flown to any place in the world while we sit in a...
That is not... See, this is some bullshit right here. You live like that because I don't know what type of videos you do, whether you do right-wing political content like where you're apologizing for the ills of capitalism and the shit that people deal with. Most people don't live like that. Let me show you something about why people are fucking complaining. Let me show you why. Let me show you why. No, a better one. A better one. A better one. Yeah, here we go. This is fucking why, man. Is because most people do not make enough money to survive. That's why people are pissed off. Is because you might have little comforts like a car to go to work, a car to do your Uber deliveries or pick up your fucking passengers in, or a car to get to your fucking Chrysler job and shit like that. But people literally cannot afford to live by themselves. Shit is so bad to the point where people have to either A, sell like expensive things off. We don't have free health care. We are missing so much that can make society a lot easier for people. But workers, you know, we're finding it fucking tough. And that's coming from somebody that actually fucking works for a living. Yeah, it's keeping right up with it. Like, even though we technically might make more thanks to inflation and there not being any like regulations on how much rent people can charge, you know, our rent has not, you know, been keeping up. I mean, our wages has not been keeping up with rent, let alone or like even productivity. We produce and work more than any other time in human history, but we don't we don't get paid. We don't get paid for all the shit that we produce at these punk ass factories and what have you. So like I don't want to hear this shit talking about we have it easier because we have a car. Get the fuck on, dude. Like this is the most like solipsistic I refuse to think shit ever, dude. Like actually go outside sometime and ask people what they're complaining about instead of just trying to like generically say like, oh, people are complaining about nothing. You have a car and you can take a trip. Like you think people are just like taking trips to Hawaii anytime they fucking feel like it? You know how many years you have to work at a job before you have a long enough time off to go on these fucking trips? Like get over yourself.
Seat flying through the sky. That's pretty amazing. And people serve us stuff, and we're able to have ice in all of our drinks on demand. I've got a refrigerator just stacked with food and a freezer, right?
A lot of people don't have that, even though they work over 60 hours a fucking week. It's a lot of people out here who need food stamps and other fucking forms of care, but they don't qualify for them because our system is fucking so rigged against people that work for a living. It's a lot of people out here with nothing to fucking eat, dude. And you, just because you have it good, because you do your little grift, apologize for capitalism videos, doesn't mean everybody else has all these same benefits.
There, just all this food, right? We don't have to go gather or hunt at each meal. This is incredible.
Like keep in mind, this is directed towards college kids who are fucking who are eating noodles every night sometimes in order to get by.
Eating a snack with a perfectly controlled artificial environment around me. I could be even having ice cream, something an emperor in the middle. No one's
dude.
Ice
And
cream,
then not to
right?
mention the fact I'm regularly hearing stories from people who've like tried to live alone and move out of their parents' house. How they're going winters without heat and shit like that. How they gotta live wrapped up in blankets, what have you. And how the only way they can afford to keep an apartment or a house is with a bunch of fucking roommates. Like, get bent.
Kidding me? And when I'm done, I'm gonna go take a completely on-demand hot shower. Then I can stream hours and hours of the most amazing content from any type.
Clearly, this is the. I keep pausing it because it's so insulting being a working class person have to listen to this shit. Clearly, this motherfucker never had a real job before. And if he did, it was like 10, 15 years ago where he was like working at his local speedway or something like that. And he had his first fucking job or whatever. Because people that actually work for a living don't have time for none of this shit. If you work a if you live a man's life, or even women a lot of the time, you don't have time for shit like streaming hours of video or even showering sometimes, or shopping, or going on trips and shit like that. Real people that work for a living spend most of their life and time at work. So they will understand that, you don't have time to do any of the shit that he's talking about. He acts like being a fucking Zoomer or a millennial is just like sitting at home with your feet up and maybe you go to work for an hour to make $100 an hour or some shit like that. No, you spend at least 90% of your time at your fucking job. So all your hobbies and interests and other shit you want to do gets neglected.
Of age or genre, holy smokes, we could entertain ourselves today. And then you can make a complete living with just typing away from your couch. You make a living, right? You can.
Who's doing that? Dude, like, is this dude trying to criticize people that work from fucking home? First of all, I support those people. Fuck you. They don't have to show up to their fucking office every day to get like sexually harassed or whatever. Two, most people don't do this shit. Most people work actual wage labor jobs that they have to fucking go to. People have to go to Amazon. People have to go to Chrysler. People have to go make their Uber Eats deliveries and drop off passengers and pick them up and what have you. Most people are not sitting at home typing on the fucking computer. And even those, and it's like, you know, that goes even further. To know somebody that never had a real job before, because workers respect workers. You think doing all that shit on a computer is easy? All them projects and assignments that office workers get, you think that shit is easy? This guy wouldn't last a day. I probably wouldn't. But he's neglecting that work is work. Work consumes a lot of your time and fucking energy. And like I said, he would know that if he had a real job before.
You can order groceries that are delivered to your door. You see? I mean, like, yeah, it's true.
You got some grocery money, motherfucker?
Authority by any means, but holy cow, the amount of comfort and luxury and entertainment.
Oh my fucking god!
Economic class entertains to this day is far, far more extravagant than a lot of.
You know, I saw a McDonald's employee with an iPhone, and you think we have economic inequality? Pfft, come on. Like I said, this is brick-headed as fuck, man.
Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just means the more coddled we are, the more we're able to distance ourselves from suffering. Even some type of medical thing of like, oh, I don't want to feel that.
There's just one problem. They're still suffering, though. Nobody is distanced themselves from suffering. People are still suffering and struggling with shit. Just because you can stream a few hours of your favorite TV fucking program doesn't mean that, you know, things like medical debt, things like lights, gas, water, things like paying back college student loans, things like figuring out how you're going to get another job after losing one. People have fucking problems in between their moments of comfort. And it's like I said, people are working more than ever nowadays and producing more, but they're getting paid less. People don't have all this time on their hands just to fucking sit around. But you would know that, again, if you had a real job.
They have local or general anesthetic if like it looks like too much pain.
Oh
Like just put
God.
thing. It's like, wow, doctors aren't even bleeding us.
So what if somebody gets shot or something like that? They supposed to just sit there and bleed out and feel it? Like, come on, what the fuck is being said here?
Physical pain if we wanted to, and sit in absolute comfort every moment until we die. That's pretty remarkable. But what that means is one day when the hot water is out, we have to join what everybody did for thousands of years and just like take a cold bath, if you even get a bath, kind of thing. Most of us can't even wrap our heads around that. And what that means is we're just coddled, we're fragile, we're spoiled, we're high maintenance.
No, motherfucker, you're coddled and high maintenance because clearly, bro, this is from somebody. Look, if you're an actual poor person, whether you live in like Florida and you had your basement flooded, you live in like Michigan and the cold has burst your fucking pipes or whatever, you know what it's like to take a cold bath. People that actually work for a living know what that fuck that's like. You're preaching to the choir, fam. You're the one that's coddled. You're the one that has everything working all the fucking time and can get it fixed the next fucking day. Sometimes people go months without hot water and then have to scrounge together about, $2,000-$3,000 to get their fucking pipes and hot water tank replaced, bro. Like, that's you. You're coddled. You don't have to struggle. Everybody else ain't coddled. Everybody else has to struggle. Sometimes people gotta live with their water off. And like I said, you don't know what that's like. And it's like one thing I'm noticing throughout this entire video He keeps mentioning and talking about scenarios about things that his privileged ass has never been through. But when people complain about, even if people have all these things, right? That doesn't mean that their life is perfect, so they should just shut up and fucking deal with it.
Being like, man, we're all little kings, aren't we? Let's move to the second point. All right, the second thing is absolutely shocking to me, truly, and it's this: courage has died, and we do not mourn.
What does this mean?
Over all human history, courage is like this top virtue that all society, over all time, celebrates. Be courageous.
Insert the union joke here. Intersectionality. Here the fuck we go. But it's the union thing I said earlier. Motherfuckers like him. You remember back in the day, bro, like during like the Pinkertons and shit like that, when you went to join a union, you were risking life and limb, and you still are risking your job nowadays. But these are the same motherfuckers who be like, hey man, want to join the workers union? No, I don't want to do that. The innocent corporation pays us very finely, so I don't want to do anything to disrespect them. Like, get the fuck on, man. You can miss me with that.
And to call someone a coward, man, they might duel you to the death. You don't call someone a coward.
Coward.
Now, though, something absolutely shocking has happened. Courage is no longer seemingly celebrated. Instead, we're competing to see who can be the biggest victims.
Are you
Philosophically,
serious?
this is called intersectionality.
I call this the I can't say the N word anymore, so everybody's trying to be a victim, and people realize that their identities affect how they're treated. And you're whining about what? Like literally nothing. Just people realizing that different identities can affect how different people live. But I guess at the end of the day, when you're a right-wing dipshit, what you want is people to be uneducated and ignorant because they don't want you questioning the hierarchies of society.
Basically,
or social hierarchy, I should just say.
Individual. Instead, everyone belongs to a group, and all these groups are in contention for power.
No, not all the groups are in contention for power. People just say, when actual intersectional feminists or intersectional like left-wing people just say that your identity can affect how you live and how you're treated. And then that's about fucking it. All this bullshit that you're trying to put in talking about people actually just want to be victims. Like, no, bro. Sorry, you can't say the N-word anymore.
If you're into intersectionality philosophy, you basically believe a person's race, gender, socioeconomic status, and sexuality really defines who they are as a person inside a greater group.
No, not like ubiquitously like you're saying. And they don't say it describes them in general, and it doesn't put people in a box. People just say that if you're like a black working class man, for example, you're more likely to have certain experience. You're more likely to be poor. You're more likely to deal with police brutality. The same thing can be said for like a lesbian white woman. The same thing can be said for like a gay black man, or a trans woman, or a trans man. Different identities. Or what if somebody was like an immigrant, Latino, trans woman or some shit like that? These things will determine how you're treated and viewed and the opportunities that will be available for you in society. This is not to put people in a box, but to criticize social hierarchy and say that, hey, maybe we should alleviate some of the socioeconomic deprivation that these people are facing. Maybe these hierarchies are stupid and we should get rid of them. And, and many other questions can be asked from analyzing, identity from an intersectional lens. Most people that are intersexual anywhere are anarchists, and they don't believe in your identity putting you in a box. They don't believe in identities at all. The people that are always trying to reinforce an identity means something are racist, conservative motherfuckers. Saying black people are lazy, women are stupid and docile, or Jewish people are thieves, or that's a really good one if you get further enough to the right. Or, gay people, molest children. Y'all motherfuckers are the ones that put people in boxes and say that because somebody is a certain way, they're a certain way. And I think the thing that makes them the most upset is when you tell one of these motherfuckers, like, hey, a white person going through life can have it easier. That's a simple fucking fact. Versus a black man, a white person doesn't have it easier. And then they'll tell you all this story. Well, I was white and I was in the military. I went to Afghanistan and they shot at me. And then this one time I was at a Coney Island in Detroit and they said, "Here's your order, white boy." And they say that white people don't face discrimination. Like, get the fuck on.
That basically sponsors that. And the more of these groups you belong to, and you're more in the minority class, that means you have greater and greater amounts of moral superiority. So, for instance,
What?
if you are a Christian white male, there's a lot of those.
Nobody says that because, like, whatever, dude. Nobody says that.
Then your opinion really isn't worth much. But if you are
Nobody
nobody
says that shit. Like, your opinion is not worth any value because of what minority that you are and shit like that. Most of the time, a lot of you so-called Christian straight white men, what you try to do is weaponize your identity to talk over minorities and say that, oh, I'm a white person and they told me go home white boy when I was walking through a black neighborhood, so look, I got to deal with racism. That's why often of the time things that white men say or even some white women say are dismissed, because y'all weaponize your identity in like the stupidest fucking ways. And when people dismiss what you're saying, you want to get mad. Not to mention the fact even working class straight white Christian men, that's an identity. They are victims of capitalism and to some extent white supremacy too. And people seek to alleviate their stresses too. And their stresses, are not caused by minority groups or social progress. But again, people like you try to weaponize again your skin color to say like, oh, I'm a white person and I had this struggle, so therefore all these other people are just whining. When at the end of the day, being a white man, a straight white man, especially if you're Christian, you're more likely to have it easier. That's a simple fucking fact that y'all can't accept. But y'all try to come up with all these little dumbass one-off stories to try to say that it's hard to be white or whatever. Not to say that it can't be. Not to say that white people don't deal with certain kinds of bigotry and, the class struggle just like any other person. But it's the way that y'all use your identity that is constantly criticized and dismissed.
If you are a black, gay, female, trans person, now you've achieved multiple victim statuses across a lot of different groups, and so you wield supreme moral authority.
Nobody thinks like this, dude.
I'm evil, I'm oppressor, and you are good because you are minority. That's how intersectionality works. But basically, the gist of it is this.
Did you feel good when you said that, man? Like, you so full of fucking shit right now. That is not what intersectionality is. It's simply just a lens of, well, how can I put the shit? Intersectionality, I'm getting kind of tired. Let me drink something. My throat's kind of hoarse. Intersectionality is simply thinking about how your identity status can affect your state of living in society, your socioeconomics, what have you. It's not about putting people in hierarchy. It seeks to alleviate these hierarchies by analyzing the reasons why certain hierarchies exist. Even to the point where most people that are intersectional are also either socialists or anarchists, and they seek to uplift working class straight white men too. So this bullshit about intersectionality being about a minority mattering more than a straight white person is just a Nazi lie.
Thing is happening. We're competing to see who can be the greatest victim. And
that's y'all motherfuckers, because like I said earlier, bro, he keeps saying it over and over again, and I keep having to pause it over and over again. The only motherfuckers that are racing trying to be the biggest fucking victims are straight white men, often at the time. Right-wing straight white men. It's not liberal straight white men. It's not progressive or socialist or anarchist straight white men. Right-wing, from neoconservative to conservative to neo-Nazi white men are the only motherfuckers on the planet that try to be the biggest fucking victim. Oh, You know, white people are being destroyed because I saw an interracial couple on TV. They're erasing traditional families because there was a lesbian couple on TV. You know, y'all motherfuckers are the main motherfuckers all the fucking time, whining about your people being erased or stepped over somehow when another kind of person has the spotlight. Like, people of minority statuses can't even have movies. A good example is, like, I watched a Zenhart video. This son of a bitch, Yellow Flash, was mad because Miles Morales is a version of Spider-Man, and he can't fucking accept it because he's fucking racist, and he made several fucking videos and tweets whining about this shit. Like, y'all are some right wing white men, and even some, you know, other minorities that are like right wing too. Right wing people in general are some of the whiniest motherfuckers on earth. And the worst part about y'all don't actually talk about any solutions to y'all problems. Maybe sometimes there's a final solution, but a lot of the motherfucking time, y'all whine. Because when other people are dealing with their stresses and the media covers it, or the media makes a movie or a TV show or even a fucking commercial about somebody else, you have to come up and say, what about the white people? They're erasing white people. White people this, white people that. Y'all don't fucking stop. But y'all claim to be everybody else. Y'all claim that everybody else is trying to be a victim. Tim Pool literally has several fucking videos of him saying that, oh, they fired me from Vice because I was white. Desperate to try to be the fucking victim. All the fucking time. And even sometimes in situations when y'all are clearly in the fucking wrong.
Opinion is worth more. Victimhood means you're morally superior. Guys, it's not race or gender or sexuality or socioeconomic class. It's not that all the rich are evil and all the poor are good. It's that everybody should be
Nobody says any of that shit, by the way.
evaluated as individuals to be a good person, be a love.
This is so you can ignore, you know, See, the thing about intersectionality and class struggle scares these people. So they don't want you talking to other minorities about how their lives might be hard in comparison to yours. They don't want you gaining sympathy for queer people, people of color, or people on a lower socioeconomic bracket. They want you to be ignorant and complacent with how society is and never try to change things for the better. And the best way to do that is to sell you minorities talking about their issues as people trying to be victims.
Loving person, be giving. Be
now finish
generous.
up, man. I gotta go.
What are your ideas? What are your beliefs? You don't get a token pass just because you belong to a minority group. Doesn't mean you're right or wrong.
And I know you wouldn't say that to a black. You wouldn't say that to a black conservative. You would not say that. Then all of a sudden, their opinions matter more, and you should listen to everything that they has to say.
Nuts. I feel crazy that I even have to say that. You know, I'm still living Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream.
Oh no!
His kids wouldn't be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, right? But
go fuck yourself, because he said and protested for a lot more than that and started to gain sympathy for the more radical, less savory in the mouth radical black representations like Malcolm X and the Black Panther Party. Not to mention the fact Martin Luther King didn't just say, oh, I want to be judged for the content of my character, not the color of my skin. He didn't stop right there. He didn't stop after the Civil Rights Act. Martin Luther King was literally killed striking with, I'm assuming, mixed race garbage truck workers because he knew that the Civil Rights Act and the few things that Lyndon Johnson did wasn't going to be enough to make life better for the American people. Martin Luther King was a very radical left-wing guy. And I hate when conservatives try to pretend like he only said this one quote and gave up on everything else. This is why Charlie Kirk thinks Martin Luther King is a mixed bag.
Immediately, kind of like Martin Luther King Jr. Who? What? And just ran right past what he was saying.
What?
The first thing, guys, is we are chocolate soldiers. That's an interesting phrase. Chocolate soldiers. I stole that
Spelled
from
it wrong.
MCT Stud, who was basically calling out some of his peers because they had the appearance of being courageous, but really when the slightest amount of heat was applied to them, they would melt away. I mean, you look like you're brave, but you're really not. We're chocolate soldiers. Now today, we like to imagine that we're all fierce and strong-willed and strong-minded. But listen, I wrote this. Everything is offensive now. Cat in the Hat.
Here we
Canceled.
go again,
MAGA
dude. Like,
hats.
no, stop. No, everything is not offensive now. Look, society has advanced forward, and people have different views about certain subjects or certain kinds of jokes and what have you. People do not have to accept your fucking bigotries, dude. You could just stop being a racist or a homophobe or sexist. People don't want to hear or support you making those fucking jokes, man. Deal with it. Move the fuck on. Get new fucking content. I'm so sick and tired of hearing this. I'm so censored because I can't fucking JQ or say the N-word with the hard R on TV any fucking more. Or I can't make jokes about queer people being pedos or whatever the fuck that you want to say. And people challenge you for it and you want to get mad. You're the person acting like the victim. Nobody has to agree with you, man, on every fucking thing. And then people are not going to enable the shit. People are not going to, keep hanging around you and accepting you when you're saying all this dumb shit. They don't have to. That's their choice. And this is you bitching about it.
Statues in parks, inconvenient facts of history,
like
number
what?
Of genders, disagreement on what is healthy sexuality, the state of police.
And it's like I can't cover everything that he's saying right now, but yeah, fuck them statues. They, and it's like he's literally right now trying to defend Confederate statues of like that bastard art, like Robert E. Lee and shit like that. No, fuck all those statues. They all need to be taken down. If not put in a museum, they should be melted down for fucking scrap. Because the only reason why a lot of these fucking Confederate memorials were made was because they wanted to intimidate the civil rights protesters. So they got all their fucking pocket change out of their fucking trailers where they're fucking their fucking relatives and what have you. And they put together enough money to make these cheap ass statues that are not even real bronze. They're just meant to intimidate black people out of protesting.
In America, guns and the Second Amendment, Karl Marx, climate change, BLM, elections, the Kung Flu, Israel, abortion, and 1,000 other triggers that send us running into our safe spaces. It appears that we're not able to
it depends, bro, on what you're saying about the subject matter. Because it's like, and I guess I will let him finish talking because I'm going to sit down and give my voice a rest for a second. I've been making videos for 3 days in a row. Voice already tapping the fuck out. But what I was going to say is that sometimes when it comes to different subjects that we're talking about, there's a right answer and correct perspective, and there is a wrong answer and a wrong perspective. Like, for instance, the BLM thing, being black myself, I think I know a little about that. Sue me. Point being is black crime really a problem with black people inherently, or is it socioeconomics? There's a right and a wrong answer there. The answer that makes you more comfortable, the answer that makes you feel good, the answer that makes you feel like a strong white leader of the United States may not necessarily be the right answer. And the gender shit you said earlier, that could have been further scientific study based on how gender identification works. So, a lot of these things that you are listing, often at the time, they're either A, more complicated, B, there's a right or wrong answer about certain things in history or certain political discussions. And people don't have to accept your, call it feelings on these subjects, and they can hit you with some facts about how the world really works. Because we live in a world where we just validate right-wing and far-right opinions, we'll wind up in a Nazi hellhole when people don't call y'all people out for the dumb shit that y'all say about whatever minority group has you upset that day.
You're at a dinner, or maybe it's a holiday with your family, and don't talk about politics because that relative may not ever talk to you again over it. You can't talk to your neighbors about elections. You can't talk to your coworkers about firearms. You can't talk to anybody even about the weather because climate change, right? Everyone's so easily triggered and offended. It wasn't terrible.
Nobody is so terrible and offended, bro. And it's the thing about right wing white people, whether like I said, we're talking conservatives, libertarians, neocons, or whatever, up to and including fascists. It's like, I've spoken to a few of you people. It's the way in which you talk about stuff, and the way in which you refer to certain type of people that makes people uncomfortable and makes people not want to engage with you. And some of the times, your political views, it's not about somebody being sensitive. Certain political views, like, say for instance, being an actual Nazi or a BHI, Black Hebrew Israelite, you could just be a bad person. And people might not want to be around you because nobody wants to hear that shit all the time about how black people are lazy, about how women are degenerate nowadays, or how all the trans people are transing everybody. Everybody don't want to hear that shit all the time, so people stay away from you. And you people are way worse than left-wing and liberal people because you can't shut the fuck up about your politics sometimes. And then especially if you're talking to somebody younger than you, or perhaps a woman in the family, they don't want to hear that shit. Don't nobody want to be around nobody always talking about how some minority is lazy, or how somebody's jobs is getting stolen, or how some election was stolen. Nobody want to hear that shit all the time. Maybe people don't want to talk about politics at all sometimes because it's a touchy subject. But most of the time, it's because right-wing people like you, your politics make you a bad person.
Yeah, maybe in the last just generation, few decades, where it became impossible to talk about the stuff that really matters. Don't talk about money, God, or politics. It's kind of like, well, that's kind of like the most important stuff, though. Of like,
or you can find people to go talk to about it with that will accept your bullshit. I mean, but I guess at the end of the day, I kind of feel as though, I'm giving him too much of a pass, because I don't feel as that, it's people that don't want to talk about it. I feel more that it's people disagreeing with him, and he takes the fact that people disagreeing with the things that he's saying as something bad, as unacceptable. How dare you disagree with the things that I'm saying? How dare you pull up things that are correcting me? You got an internet study. That dumb motherfucker's a good example of that. But you can talk to people about your political beliefs, but that doesn't mean people have to accept and agree with them. You're 9 times out of 10 gonna have a discussion, and if that person doesn't agree with you, you just gotta live with it. Like your son or daughter or whatever, they're not necessarily, or your niece, nephew, whatever, your friends at work, they're not gonna necessarily have all the political views that you have. And that's coming from me, a leftist. Everybody doesn't view this, have the same views as I am. A lot of people are politically uninformed and don't really have a coherent set of views anyway. But people that are coherent, that are pro this, anti that, people might disagree with you on some stuff. And that's just a simple fact of life. And if you can't handle disagreement, you shouldn't be talking about politics with people.
What does that mean? Or like, what do I just talk about the weather? And now we can't even really talk about the weather, as I said, because before you couldn't talk about what matters. Now it seems like we can't even talk about what doesn't matter. Everyone needs a safe space. We are all
in the wake of a summer full of air pollution and wildfires, that does not age well or bode well. That we can't talk about the weather. Everybody's sensitive about climate change. Like, we're at the point now in history when it comes to climate change where it can't be ignored. All the wildfires, all the smog that was released this year, at least in 2023, and coupled with the natural disasters getting worse and all the heat waves, even in the more northern states like Minnesota, Michigan, and New York City and what have you, you can't ignore climate change. It's here and it's a problem. If if it's a heat wave in the middle of July, right? Or even heat waves when it's not supposed to be, like it'd be like 65 degrees in December. People might ask, like, why is it so hot? It's not hot because, people just feel like making it hot, like they turned on the air generators or whatever. It's hot because climate change. Like, it's like I said, when it comes to certain discussions anyway, or depending on how you're talking about a subject, or what you're mentioning in the subject matter of the discussion, it can get political, and then when it does get political, it can be a right or wrong answer. And sometimes you're just wrong. Like, climate change is real. I don't know what to tell you.
Hypothetically, we and triggered. Just delicate little snowflakes, all of us. Everyone's just made of glass, walking around, and it's
Oh God, coming from the guy that's bitching right now.
I'll either get angry or I'll excommunicate you. We can't just agree to disagree. That doesn't happen anymore. And so the public discourse seems to be just let down. What happened to just being able to have a disagreement with somebody or something and be like, Roger that, you think one way, I think another way, and we can just agree to
because people are tired of you motherfuckers. Because like I said, some political disagreements, and I don't think this is a new thing, and it's not new, especially for some people of some political ideologies. Like if you're an actual fucking Nazi, right? Let's say actual fucking Nazi, like Nick Fuentes fan, and y'all talk about various things. You talk about minorities, you know, you talk about women, talk about immigration. And everything that you say is nothing but hostility. No understanding, no kindness, no willing to have empathy or respect towards fellow human beings. You know, can be a, you know, political, it's like political diagram for some people, especially people that are like actual Nazis or whatever have you. People are not going to respect you and want to be around you. There's no agree to disagree with somebody that thinks, you know, or talks about shit like skull shapes and a bell curve. Or questions events in history that have undeniable proof that they happen. Or people that try to justify things like slavery. There is a thing, bro, where sometimes political disagreements, you can just simply not just be wrong about what you're saying, but you can also just be a bad person for believing things that you believe.
Disagree. Remember back when we could do that? You could just disagree with somebody without wishing death upon them or calling them Hitler. That used to be a thing. You could do that.
That's what I'm talking about right there. Because y'all motherfuckers constantly, bro, and it's like, this is the thing about the right wing in America has shifted basically to most Republican voters in America are fascists. And they have fascistic beliefs about different minority groups of people. And then when they're called out for these beliefs and stuff like that, and people are like, man, you sound like kind of a Nazi. Because, you know, like shit like constantly complaining about Dr. Fauci or let me think of some shit. Or the George Soros shit, talking about deep states and great resets and globalist elites. And then when somebody said, man, you sound like kind of a fucking Nazi. What's wrong with you? And then you're like, whoa. Just because I think the Israel lobby is trying to do extra Y thing doesn't make me a Nazi, bro. or you know, or like, you know, dismissing you know, facts and actual statistic because you feel a certain way. You know, that's not everybody else's fault. That's your fault.
Nazi. But now it's immediate. You disagree? Nazi. No. You're a Nazi. You're racist. Everything's racist. This phone, racist. Look at this. This strip. It's all racist.
Ever since white people lost the hard R, man. Look at this, bro.
Like calls me a racist. I'm on YouTube, so I get called racist a lot. I'm like, all right, but you know.
I mean, it might apply to you. I don't know.
Man is God, yet I'm still racist. All right, whatever.
What?
But now it's like a buzzing in my ear. I don't even really hear it anymore because everything and everyone's a racist until you've watered down the term where it doesn't really mean anything anymore.
No, it still has meaning. Don't try to do this shit where you're trying to like hand wave your white supremacist beliefs away, and then when somebody calls you a racist for it, you act like it's everybody else's fault for quote unquote being too sensitive. Maybe you're just saying racist things and you should stop. You want to stop getting called racist? Then stop being racist. Whatever those things that you're saying, you can stop saying them at any time. There's been many documentaries and shit about leaving hate movements and unlearning, you know, various various kinds of bigotries against people and extending the hand of humanity out to others. There are so many documentaries I'm sure on YouTube about, you know, life after hate and what have you. And like Arnold Schwarzenegger actually has a few good motivational speeches about, I don't know, not being a fucking Nazi, not being a fucking racist. And that's your problem. Like if people constantly keep calling you racist for views you're espousing, you might want to dig a little deeper, do some self introspection. Where's that shit at? But I guess it's everybody else's fault, huh?
Super shallow and did you suck if you're racist. But when everyone's all of a sudden a racist, I'm kind of like, oh, well, racist. Yeah, I get it. Everyone's a racist. And that kind of thing's happening. It's like the word is so overused, it's losing its actual potency. So I'm a little bit of a tirade. We really need to move on to point 4. Everything is your fault. It's not my fault. If you ask me what's wrong with the world, it's the systems. It's the capitalists, or it's the president, or it's the institutions of power. You know what's wrong. It's the universe. It's the media. It's the system. It's the man.
That's y'all that do that shit too. Ironically enough, dude, like, first of all, criticisms of things like capitalism and white supremacy and the systems that we see nowadays where our government is controlled by a bunch of fucking rich lobbyists. So they don't do things that help working class people too much. That's a factual statement that rich people are stepping on and walking over poor people. Economic inequality, that's a simple fact of life. But at the same time, he's going to complain about, the media. Y'all the motherfuckers that be saying shit like that, complaining about the media, talking about deep states and how everybody's against, like, straight white men, like you did earlier in this video. That's a y'all things. Y'all criticize everything. It's like, and I dare say this, bro. I hate to do this kind of identity politics shit, and I feel greasy doing it. But, like, white men especially have the power to change things for the better in the United States, unlike any other. But a lot of white men choose not to. They choose to, A, be complacent, B, be ignorant, or C, be malicious. And when you do these things, you kind of lose your rights to complain about the problems that you're experiencing. Because one second you'll be talking about how hard it is to be a hardworking man and how we got expectations on men, especially white men and shit like that. But then the next second you would go defend the same people that are causing you these problems and then try to switch the blame to other people. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's always someone else's fault, isn't it? I love Jordan Peterson in his 12 Rules for Life. He talks about clean up your own room, and he's basically just saying, hey, take responsibility for your own sphere. If you want to change the world,
this is to prevent people from criticizing society that you live under. Because, like, don't get me wrong here. It's things that you can do to improve stuff for yourself. But if you're working 40 hours a week, you are barely making it, There's a lot of studies, like I pulled up earlier in this video, that are saying that wages and is not keeping up with rent, it's not keeping up with inflation or the cost of food and what have you. That people are feeling more isolated and lonely because of capitalism. That capitalism is actively, the way that it's in deregulations and the lack of social services are hurting people. These are simple facts, and that's very dismissive and disrespectful to people that actually do work for a living, to try to say that, oh, you work your ass off for a living but still have a hard time, you should shut up, fuck you. That's basically what's being said here.
You can't change the world. You can't change all the huge institutions.
Yes, you can.
All the things that have gone awry.
Yes, you can.
But you can change yourself. And if I was to come alive and be better than I am now, if I was to become a more loving man, a more generous man, a stronger
What
man.
did this mean, become a better you? What about all the people that are doing the best that they can? Most people that get to the political conclusions of anti-capitalism, I mean real anti-capitalism, not being mad because you saw like a Swiffer commercial with a gay couple or some shit like that. I mean people that actually are anti-capitalist and are criticizing the system as we know and see it. Oh, man. Oof. You wouldn't get to those conclusions if you weren't working hard. Because the thing about being an actual person that works for a living, I know you wouldn't know what that's like. You feel like you're running on a fucking hamster wheel. You can work 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week sometimes, and it'll never feel like it's enough. But even when you do work hard, you got to go right back to fucking work. It feels like your life never improves no matter how hard that you work. And you start to wonder and ponder, why is my life the way that it is? And most of the time, that's how people become anti-capitalist. Sometimes they become like fascist and shit, but people just start to question what they're told in the way that they're living. This is a problem with liberalism in general, because like, or neoliberalism especially, because it enables fascistic ways of thinking like this dipshit. Because when left wing way of thought is shunned and disrespected, where people can't criticize the system that they live under and demand some improvements, or just simply sometimes some common sense governance, we wind up with people like Reagan and Trump.
And all the different ways that strength entails, all the people around me probably grow a little too. And in that way, that's how we change the world. As you get better, don't change the stuff. It is so true that there's political corruption and there's all kinds of greed in this world.
But don't do anything about it. What happened to being courageous earlier? This is the same motherfucker earlier. This is the type of shit I'm talking about. This is the same motherfucker that was talking about being courageous and standing up for yourself and shit like that. But like, okay, what about this capitalism thing? Oh, you don't you don't need to be like, standing up to those rich people and stuff like that. You just need to like calm down and like do your own thing, man. Just work a little harder. Don't be like criticizing the system or nothing like that. Pathetic.
Hopelessly broken, desperately need some Jesus. Anyway, the world is absolutely broken, and so I won't disagree with you there, but at some point,
I wonder, do people like this think Jesus will like capitalism?
It can't just always, all wrongs in your life can't be someone else's fault. At some point, we just got to own it and be like, hey, you know what?
A lot of the time, it can be. It can be. Most of the socioeconomic struggles that we see today are literally the byproducts of policies that we didn't have no say in, or that we have little to no say in, or the wrong people have a say in. Or people like you that are too weak to stand up and demand better. Like, this is very anti-working class rhetoric. Very anti-union rhetoric that we're hearing from this dipshit. Because it's like I said. So 1 second we should be courageous and go fight wars and do all this other shit. But like, okay, what do we do about this capitalism thing? We're experiencing a lot of economic inequality. Well, no. Don't do anything about that. Just worry about yourself. Like, it's so hypocritical.
I can change me, and I'm the problem with me. My biggest problem is actually me. It's not out there, it's me. I'm my biggest problem.
Where's all that shit at when it came to like intersectionality and stuff? I might be ready to wrap this video up, dude, because this dude is a huge hypocrite scumbag dipshit, bro. Because like I said, I don't even know where to even start with this shit. First of all, no matter how good things are, people have the right to complain about problems in society. During the 1950s, America saw a lot of economic independence and, economic freedom for a lot of those straight white men that you were talking about, but black GIs got fucked over, which kind of even led to some of the problems that we were seeing today. Or, Nixon starting the drug war, or the fact that wages aren't keeping up with productivity. Just because society might be good in some areas doesn't mean you don't complain and try to fix some others.